understanding what we're asking here?
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
All right, the motion made, supported. Anything from the public? You want to stay right there, Luke, and answer from the public? Why don't you come up here, John, so everybody can hear you? Just don't go too far.
I think there's,
John Watt, 1423 South Riverside. Mr. Mayor, thank you, Council Lynette, Attorney Downey. I don't want to be that guy, Luke, okay? But, I mean, we really have 3 or 4 families in a residential neighborhood that whatever you're doing is affected by. And going from, and I don't know about zoning and all that other kind of stuff, but am I under the correct understanding that once this goes to site planning, they make the necessary adjustments, they come back to you guys for approval, correct?
No.
There could be changes?
Once it goes to planning, site planning is taken care of them. That doesn't come to us. So part of my right saying that? Right. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So they can make changes different from what you just agreed upon?
No, we can add more changes. We can add things to it. We can't make any changes from this, Mr. Downey, is that right?
That's right.
We can add another condition.
So I guess I don't understand the process. If you have the site development first and you go through it, and then you have a chance to take a look at things. For example, going to the north is a great, I think that's going to work out great for the Murrays. Going to the west for us, I mean, planting a 6-footer, those are going to be 10, 12, 15 feet in a couple of years. There's no reason, if it's not a problem, to go ahead and not utilize that and not use that part of the screening. Now, I know you can do that because going to a C2 requires a 28-foot variance, which is not happening here. They are right on the property line. There's no variance whatsoever, okay? And so I've heard people say, well, that's grandfathered in. Well, you got to be careful when you start grandfathering things because it affects a lot of different things, okay? So I disagree with you guys making a motion to approve of something when I think there's some other changes that can be made that'll work both for you, Luke, and for the residents in the area.
yeah. I would honestly, I'd say, like, you know, what would be something that we could do, you know, because one of the things with the setback, it's still, I believe it still has to go to the setback variance.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Which is 28 foot. How do you get to do that?
right, and you know, and I guess our statement to that is that we didn't build the building, we also didn't plan the lots. So it's one of those things where
people put their homes in there being zoned residential too. Same.
Right. Well, a lot of those homes, and to be fair, a lot of those homes were built actually prior to the zoning master plan being done in 2001. And I spoke with several individuals in regards to that. And that's kind of, you know, we're, as a business, we're going to do everything that we can do to make sure that not only the surrounding residents, but the entire city feels that we've done our job to not only do a better job than was expected, but to go, you know, even farther above that. So if you have concerns, I'd be happy to.
And I think you will, but here's my concern is this is the dialogue that should have happened before you took a vote. You take a vote and there's some things I think that we can work out that now we got to go to the site plan, right? Attorney Downey, am I correct on that or what?
Yes, and I was just going to ask the mayor for permission to jump in here, Mr. Watt. I think that the issue is this, that business owners such as Mr. Marion or somebody else won't engage the professional services necessary to develop a site plan unless they know that their zoning is in order. In other words, it's a...
I don't know. He said last week he put a lot of money into it already without the zoning being approved, so who knows? I mean, who knows?
I guess from my standpoint, the sequencing is normally that the zoning's got to be in order before the site plan details are fleshed out.
But do you understand what I'm saying here? That there's some discussion that we're going to be having that you guys can't even approve unless the zoning committee says they want to add something, then you can add that, correct?
The
site plan.
Site plan can add restrictions. They cannot
We
add
can't change it.
more activities to.
What if we want to remove that, what do you call it, the shield or the screening on the west side?
Yeah.
Can they come back to council for amendment? We can make that motion, so I can amend the motion and say, were you going to plant pine trees there too?
No, so there was not going to be pine trees. Only the pine trees grow very slowly, and they grow extremely tall. So for the residents to the north as well as to the west, there's some structures there that kind of poses not only they're very shallow rooted. And one of our concerns is that during high winds, especially because it's on a little bit of a slope, that if you get a pine tree that's 30, 50 feet tall and falls on someone's building, who's liable? Is it me for planting a tree that's knowingly going to be blown over? There's no pine trees in the surrounding area, and I don't want to be that person that then has a liability because of that. So that's why and also too, pine trees die off in the center of the tree. They tend to die out and they look really sparse. So that's why we went with arborvitaes, because they're going to grow, up to 15 feet tall. They grow very quickly. They do very well. They're not prone to falling over, and if they do, they would even harm a fence.
And the ones that are on the north side of that lot, just north of you, those gotta be 15 feet already. Those are huge. Just north, between the old Coon house and Murray's house.
And maybe I haven't taken a good look at the surrounding trees, but yeah.
John, as part of the concern that you have that the arborvitaes will grow too tall.
Yes.
So if we put a condition there that said those arborvitaes to the west can have to be trimmed and kept at 6, 7 feet.
Why even plant, the purpose of putting up the screen is for the residents, correct?
Right, that's according to the commercial
And that's the zoning.
zoning. Yeah.
Well, here, this is what I'm saying. If we do a variance on, or do a grandfather clause on the variance in the 28-foot, there are other things that could kind of fall into that situation. And working with Mr. Marion, I think that's something that I would like to do, seeing that. And then we have 2 other families that are close by too, that we can work with him. But we can't do that if our hands are tied with what the decision you guys have made already.
So the concern is blocking your view, correct, on the north side of the park. Now, when we went through this meeting on Wednesday, it was discussed that through the code, it had to be so high. And they're not gonna meet that until it grows. They have the ability, instead of putting a fence or a block wall, just landscaping, right?
Yeah, it's
So
great.
what would happen if it sells in another 10 years, reverts back to R1 and they build houses there that are 2-story? There's no view any longer.
And so I think it's also maybe worth mentioning too that this was something that I had tossed around kind of similarly, is that I don't mind planting the trees, but I also know that if it was R1, to my knowledge, I don't believe there's a restriction against planting trees on the property, which is kind of confusing because then I was told I had to plant trees. And again, I have no problem doing it. I can get them for, $30 to $50 at a wholesale source, no problem. It's not a big deal. But then if I'm also being forced to block someone's view because it doesn't,
Can't you put an amendment that the
Doesn't
screening
matter to me,
can be approved by the residents in the area along with Mr. Marion? Can't you do
I
that?
think the problem would be is if you sold your house and someone else bought it in 3 years. 'cause you-
Somebody buys that business, it's gonna be.
It reverts back to R1.
I mean,
Yeah, it goes back to the original zoning.
Correct.
And you can set the height of it. There was a fence supposed to be in there. Everybody at the meeting said, I think the conversation's going for a while. We'd rather have something live.
if the purpose
Is
is
for the,
to protect the homeowners, to make everything look nice,
then,
wouldn't you wanna consider the fact of the homeowners be part of that process? You're totally eliminating that. That's
Not
what-
really, because this is why we're doing this.
No, you've already voted.
No, we haven't been, those can give that. But we had to make the motion so we could invite you. Motion was made, supported, whatever, voting.
I mean, you could put some, this is very creative, we're doing the same thing for 28-foot variance, you can do the same thing, and say, hey, in the event that somebody sells or whatever, it reverts back to, you're doing that on the sale of the business. I mean, be consistent here, guys.
So would putting some sort of height restriction on the arborvitaes to the west?
I don't even know why there has to be any shrubbery there at all.
because of
Saves you money.
the parking. We're afraid that if trucks or cars pull into the lot, there should be some sort of blockage there so you don't have car lights.
There's nothing like that there now.
That's a good point. And the arborvitaes serve the purpose,
And
not
you
just
said,
as
you
that,
said
but
it's hours
noise
of
too.
business is at 5 o'clock anyways when the lights won't be on, so, what pertains to the south side of the building, I think it's gonna be the same for the north and the west.
great. And I would ask, so just to clarify, because would you rather that I don't plant trees? I mean, you particularly, would you, because I haven't spoken
I
to
would
them.
rather that we sit down and talk about the options, you know, because it really is affecting you and maybe 2 other households.
Yeah, because my whole thing is I think a lot of people thought because we're gonna also propose a greenhouse, it's not everybody's cup of tea to see that. I mean, we're gonna keep things clean and tidy, obviously. I mean, I would never, it's not gonna look,
We don't even know how tall the greenhouse is. We know the dimensions, 20 by 48, but what's the height of it?
8 foot tall. Yeah, so it's gonna basically come, it's on a slight hill, so it'll technically come about to, within about 1 foot to 1.5 foot of the current roof line. It's not gonna extend higher than that, and it's gonna go with the lay of the land. But, you know, I just know that a lot of people might find that to be not desirable, but also if you don't want us to plant trees, I mean,
this is good.
You want
dialogue,
to
we
trees
should have had.
I just want to feed the community.
That-
I'm here
we
for the
want-
community.
And I
That's all I
want a small business to come in, I want you to be successful, but I want, you know, to affect everybody.
My goal is to step on as few toes as possible and to make the city a better place. My goal is very simple.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you can do legally
Okay.
to allow us to talk.
I think in site plan review, we can set a limit on the height of it, and if I remember right, can we eliminate the screening or no?
Not if we require it in the condition.
I think we have to come back to
We
council.
eliminated the variance, guys. Eliminated the variance, so you can eliminate anything you want.
So when they do the site plan review, that is where you're gonna wanna go and give me these particulars.
Right.
But not if we have them as conditions to the rezoning. So if we have a
Oh, we
condition,
should-
if we have a condition for the screening on the north side, there needs to be arborvitae's.
What Mike is saying is they could say not to exceed 10 feet, not to exceed 8 feet, and then you could do dwarf varieties, or you could do some other kind of landscaping that would be.
I mean, would that be the zoom as well?
I'd like to
Being
talk to
directed.
Mary to see what's available, but, I mean, I'd like to talk to him.
Well, we're gonna keep this moving, but you're more than welcome to talk to him, John.
No, I know.
And prior to the
But I don't
site
want to
plan-
talk to him and our talk is idle because you guys can't do anything because your hands are tied. I mean, that doesn't make
Right.
sense.
No, I don't think our hands are tied, I think we're trying to find a way to make it work for everybody
That's
involved.
why, that's again.
And by saying north and west side screening, we're not putting any limitation on the top of it, you know,
But if
so
you,
we
if you
can,
plant one of those 6-foot trees, they're gonna grow 15 feet within a couple of years.
they have dwarf varieties that'll, won't go beyond 6 or 8 feet.
Right. They have semi-dwarf varieties, they have dwarf varieties, they have full, there's a wide variety of
They could block
selection.
vehicle lights and then give you your views.
So what's the process? We talk and then when the site planning gets together, we'll sit down and talk to them about that. They come and they bring their suggestions to you guys.
Site
and then
plan,
we go-
planning commission,
Site planning.
yes. That's where you're gonna wanna go.
Yes, because on Wednesday when we went through this, it was just that it needed to be incorporated. The details
I
of
thought
such.
today was gonna be discussion. I didn't realize you
The
guys.
details of such was going to go to site plan, and that's why we kept going back to that. We said, these are the conditions that we're gonna ask for. Something at the west side, something at the south end, something at the west, north, and south. But the details of which we figured out at site plan. So you
It's
just
kind
have
of
your,
mess afterwards.
Pardon?
It's kind of, you know.
we don't write the
I
process,
know.
it's the way it's been defined for us to follow. So we're following that. So all of us were there on Wednesday. We all spoke through this.
Mhm.
The detail of which that, if there wasn't any question on what was written then, we're asking you to approve that so we can go to site planning for detail, which I think you'll have an opportunity to speak to that. And John will as well.
And once it comes, they make the recommendations back to you guys and you vote on it.
No,
No,
no.
They make the recommendations in the gospel.
We've approved site plan. This is the first time, this is the first multiple zoning, you know, where we're changing it, not multiple. Form-based, conditional. Planning can put the conditions, what you're asking for, I believe, the grant planning can work out, right?
That's right.
So if you don't like the height of the trees or that, we can put limits on it. Council's approving the idea. We can write in anything that we think so will be obtrusive or whatever. Planning still has the chance to try to meet everybody's needs too,
And if you don't mind,
which we appreciate.
if you don't mind mentioning too, so, you know, if you're looking to help us out so that we don't have to plant trees, that's, I appreciate it though, that's not a concern for me. Like I said, we have a wholesale source. It would cost so little that, you know, I don't want to say that that's a nominal thing, but that's a nominal thing. You know, if your objective is that you don't want the screening blocked. That's a very valid concern. That's something that I would definitely vocalize. But I would also then say on a third point, if your goal is to not have any trees at all, my concern would be that there are other parties involved, other neighbors that may not like it. And so to eliminate it completely.
On the west side, there really isn't.
Yeah, so
The
would you,
north side there is, but the west side there really
right, so would you rather, since you're the party involved with the west side, would you rather that the west side not have trees at all? I guess.
I'd like to talk to you alone one-on-one.
Yeah. Because I guess that's what I'm just really trying to kind of nail down, because, I mean, I want this to go as smoothly as possible, but I also don't want other people to come in when it comes to the site plan and then say, well, I'm not getting what I want, and then it comes down to a individual by individual basis. I'm trying to please 40 people, and I'm stuck in the middle. That's, and that's what I want to just try to make sure that we come to some level of agreement.
Well, obviously, there's, another neighbor, but there isn't, the Murrays aren't here, which is the ones to the north, they're not here, so they're not concerned. Actually, they're looking toward that screen
Yeah.
to the north, so that's not a problem. It's basically the people to the west.
So, yeah, so then a site plan, I guess, is, when you would then say, I don't want any screen there. Because the site plan has the trees in question and the dimension, the distance that are being planted, the height.
Or maybe not
Things
that
like that.
particular screen, that's what we need to talk about. to see
Right,
what the
yeah.
options are. Well, thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Tom Jaworski. Along with John, I have questions on the greenhouse. You said it's going to be 8 foot tall?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in proximity to the existing building. That's going to be on the north side?
On the north side of the building, yes, correct.
Does it start at the front of the building and go rearward, or from the rear going forward?
It starts more on the front of the building, because the elevation drops quite dramatically. It's more in the front portion of the building. On the site plan, I believe it's it starts about even with the front of the building, because there's a walkway as well,
Okay.
that is like handicap accessible. So, because it's going to be able to be accessed by patrons, we need to have it tied into the ADA ramp.
And you're only going to have an 8-foot ceiling in the greenhouse?
Yeah, they come standard. You can get 10 foot, you can get 12 foot, but because the length of the greenhouse is going to go up the hill slightly, I mean, it goes with the lie of the land. 8 feet puts us at a level that's not exceeding our current roof line, which I thought would be the most appropriate. I didn't want it to be, because like I said, you can get 12, you can get 15 foot tall ones. But
Well,
I mean, that'd be,
I agree with John. Maybe what we need to do is a few of us just sit down and say, if you take from this point A to the river, what is that sight line? And that'll tell us how high your trees can be. Or maybe you just put in a privet fence there, trim it.
yeah, and
There's all kinds of alternatives there. We need to have a fence, but I agree with John. We don't want to have 15, 18-foot arborvitaes. I've got them in my backyard.
Wait, so are you concerned about blocking the view as well, then, of the river?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is, if that's 2 people, I think that's a worthwhile thing to mention to the site plan,
But the question is, do we want to wait until the site plan, or do we want to come up with some ideas so we're not guessing at another meeting?
You're more than welcome to speak for the neighbors in there, and when you go to site plan review.
Well, are we able to put in the?
We'll put in there like number 9, like whoever said it down here, north and west landscaping.
Right, are we able to put in the landscaping that it's not to exceed the height of the greenhouse? Is that not doable? Or is that only site plan that we do that?
The site, they kept saying that's for the detail of the site plan.
Yeah, that all happens at site plan.
When is the site plan review? What's the date of that?
And that is it set?
The next planning commission meeting is May 11th. So I just want to bring it all back and remind council that today you're voting on the rezoning. All of these details, the greenhouse, the trees, all of that is at site plan review, at planning commission. Council isn't dictating that or approving that or doing anything about that today. Today is just approving the rezoning with these conditions of the use of the building.
But when we do the site plan review, once that goes through, that's kind of like driving the stake in the ground and that's it. Am I
I
right?
recommend you to attend the next planning commission
We
meeting.
will.
And I believe it's on the next one, but check the website for the agenda, just to double check.
And that's May 11th.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's try and get together with the young man and at least chat before then.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so our motion is going to include our conditions that we added about construction of the driveway, north and west landscaping, and then we'll look at number 7, reference to R1. That motion is made support. So let's call it roll.
Yes.
All right.
Cleveland? Lupa?
Yes.
Lepore?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Volk?
Yes.
Kinsler?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, gentlemen. Everyone. Okay, we got another one of these. This is C, approved conditional rezoning R1, R3, 200 North Kearney Drive. I know Dan is out there. Oh, who? Both of you, yeah.
I'm Brent Moore, I'm with B&J, or the engineers.
Dan Brennan with West Haven Builders, the general contractor, and representative for the developer.
And you guys were at the planning commission meeting, and the 7 conditions that you put forward to the planning commission were council, this is your chance to add any conditions that you have besides these 7. I have one that I know this is, I think I'm making a moot point here, but this was from Skirtle, just conditions that Hampton Manor use, 1-story assisted living facility with 70 beds and 2 6-unit apartment buildings not to exceed 2 stories.
That's not it. It was always supposed to be single story.
So that's your idea. You're okay with that?
100%.
Is parking in the entrance to this facility?
Shared ingress, egress with the school. I'm sorry, did I the question? Okay, ask the question again, I thought you meant egress, my fault.
I was asking if parking in the entrance is part of this, or is it part of the site plan?
Site plan. Great.
When did they start? Was it 7?
Anything else from council? We'll entertain a motion, then we'll. All right, the motion is for anybody from the audience? Okay. Anything else from you two? Call the roll, please.
I'll just point out that it is contingent on the approval of the lot split. I just wanted to make that open, because that was a question. That is part of the motion.
6, and then the easement's also, so.
Wanted to publicly state that.
Thank you.
Yes.
What is the status on that last split?
It's in process, right now it's with the county, so as soon as that's through and comes to the city, then it'll be before council for final approval.
Call the name.
Lupa?
Yes.
Lepore?
Yes.
Hall? Volk?
Yes.
Kinsler?
Yes.
Seaman? Peter?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, John. Thank you. All right, let's go to letter D, discussion of the building department fee wages. As you're aware, last meeting we did 501c3 reduction of the water debt fee. We're a nonprofit, we've received correspondence from Quartet Industries Construction to adjust the name of the fees based on their Woodlands estate development. So we're going to discuss that, saying we can vote on it tonight if anyone wants to make the motion, but it was just put on as a discussion to see if there's any feet on this thing.
my thoughts are, if you approve this, I think you'd have to waive it for everybody.
I agree.
I agree.
Wouldn't that be the same opinion on the house that we did?
Everybody's not nonprofit. That was a nonprofit. Well, it is.
Oh, Magnum's not,
What's that?
Magnum's not a nonprofit.
Yeah, but they're supplying tons of jobs and contributing to the community.
Well, this, you know, it's 50 lots and 50 new homes and 50 new tax base and 50 water customers. I make a motion to approve as presented.
I'm sorry, what's the motion?
Approve this as presented and grant the, waive the fees for the tap fees.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, you're saying waive the tap fees the
Exactly
entirety?
what he's asking for. This is the way it says in his letter, from my motion is.
Right.
Waive the tapping fees.
All right, motion made. Any support for the motion? All right, being there's no support for the motion, we will move on to number 12, claims and accounts. April 7, April 14, 2022.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
No support, but I do have a question.
Which one?
Check number 54339, repairing a guardrail. Are we getting reimbursed for that?
So we are requesting that reimbursement, yes, we're going to keep starting on that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Motion made, support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill number 13, public questions and comments, 3 minutes. Any non-agenda items out there? Anybody have anything on mind?
Excuse me, I have a non-agenda item to,
Would you come up to the microphone, please?
thank you.
With your name and address.
Good evening, thank you. My name's Roger. I'm considering residency. I currently do business from a home office at 2501 Clinton Avenue, just inside of town here. Well, when I consider moving to a new place, I like to get to know my public officials, and that I came in with my camera I thought was rolling but wasn't. And you and your staff treated me with all kinds of courteousness and professionalism. You made me feel welcome back anytime, and I appreciate that. I also like to go film police, fire, and rescue, particularly police. And I like to come to city council meetings and complain about police officers, but I can't, because I met Sergeant Patchett, who sat out here in the parking lot and had a conversation for over a half hour about all my concerns about policing in the community and how, the rift is there and how we might be able to mend it. He made me feel a sense of dignity and respect having talked to him. And then I watched him participate in a rescue over on North 2nd just yesterday. I met Officer McClure. His badge number is 3. I was observing a traffic stop at night, and he asked if I had a yellow reflector vest as a genuine concern for my safety as a person. He wasn't, issuing directives or pretending to be concerned otherwise. At no point did anybody, initiate any kind of investigatory questioning toward me. And just today, I met Officer Wood, badge number 6, in the high school parking lot talking to a sheriff who wouldn't identify himself and drove off when I asked him his name. And then Wood and I were able to sit in the parking lot and talk about that for a little bit. And those interactions I was able to capture on film and disseminate to the public so that everybody can see how your department behaves, because I think that you all set an example for at least the rest of the county. I don't have that experience elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody else?